James, welcome to the show. You have interviewed some of the highest performers in the world among different industries, whether it's business leaders or athletes. What are the habits that you notice among them?
Elin, what a great question. I have to say, it's so fun to be here. One of my great friends, Dr. Haley Perlis, talks so highly of you. So to be on your show, it's an absolute honor. Thank you, my man.
Thank you.
So, habits of high performers, whoa, I geek out on that. Like, that to me is just the most fascinating topic. There's something that separates the great from the greatest because I think all humans are great. We've all got greatness in us, but some people unleash it. And so, for the last 25 years, I've been on this pursuit of figuring out what is it that makes great people great. And I was fortunate in my younger years at 13 to win the World Solo Championships, then again at 14. So I started to kind of figure a few things out then. But Elon, I lost a lot more world championships than I won. And I started going, what's going on with those times where I don't win? What's in my control that I'm not doing very well? And so I started spending a lot of time with the mind, understanding how the brain works, how we perform with pressure. And so over the last, say, 5, 6 years, I've went really deep with Olympians, gold medal world champions, prime ministers, F1 drivers, going, okay, what is it? And so there's a few things that came up. One, they get radically clear on what's most important to them. They can tell you exactly what it is that they want to do, how they're going to do it, and when they're going to do it. Second thing, they absolutely supercharge their BS, their belief systems. They say, I believe this is possible. I believe I've got the tools and resources. I believe I can do this. So they're very positive with their self-talk and their belief systems. And I would say the third thing that comes to mind is that they take no shortcuts. They're willing to play the long game. They're willing to just, I started, for example, my podcast, I started it in my bedroom 6 years ago, interviewing people. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to keep going until I've got 100 episodes. Most people that start a podcast give up after 3. You're smashing the game, my friend. Like, you're just sticking at it. Let's go, let's go.
I
That's the way
appreciate
to
it.
do it. No, it's brilliant. So they take no shortcuts. They keep going. So that would be the 3 things that come to mind. There's lots more, but those are the 3 key.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more. I know for my podcast, I had a similar goal. It wasn't to get to 100, but it was to get to 20 because I know over 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20. So I was like, okay, how can I make myself stand out? And then you just put the cherry on top. You went to 100. So that's amazing. I wanted to ask you because you talked about no shortcuts, which I think is very, very interesting. How can people learn to be okay playing the long game? Because people want things right away, but how can they learn to detach from the short-term success that they want and learn that the long game is where it's at?
Be patient. Like, go double down on patience. I see that so much impatience in the world today. There's 2 things that highlight this. A company called Temu and a company called Sheen. Those 2 things highlight to me how damn impatient the world is. We're willing to buy crap en masse because we want it right now. We want it to look good and all flash. Honestly, dude, I live a very simple life and I would rather save for like 3 years for the real deal, take my time. And when I get it, I'll appreciate it and look after it. Like this little microphone I'm speaking on, I love it. And I worked hard for it. And I don't need another one and a flashy one. It's a cool little microphone. So I want you to think about that for yourself when you look around you. Like, people want stuff real fast. People who are the best in the world at what they do have delayed gratification. So a friend of mine, when he was 7, told his mum, his solo mum, I'm going to be a millionaire and I'm going to be the prime minister of this country. Now, he lived in a very low socioeconomic area. His mother was poor. His mother was a refugee from, I think it was Austria, when the Nazis were ripping through. And they came down to New Zealand. And he says to her, I'm going to do these 2 things at 7 years of age. Now, fast forward, he ends up working at Merrill Lynch in the US, ends up being in the Federal Reserve, becomes multimillionaire, comes back to New Zealand, joins a political party, becomes the best prime minister arguably the country has ever had. That is delayed gratification. That is playing the long game. The people who are willing to play the longest, they're the ones who stay in the game and they win.
100%, James. And I think that's even talks to your first point you were saying for the 3 ways that high achievers, the habits they have of being clear. Like, your friend said he's going to do this thing. He was clear on it, and then he shot for it every day, which I think is amazing. I spoke to a guy named Gary Shoniger on my show. He's entrepreneur. He has his own program, and he mentioned something to me off camera that I thought was very interesting. Something exactly what you're saying. He mentioned the idea that delayed gratification, just like you said, and also just being okay knowing that the results aren't going to come tomorrow, but in the future is the key that you need to succeed. Because a lot of people, like you mentioned, they don't have delayed gratification. They want everything right away. They want it now. And it's interesting because I feel like the world's most successful people, the people that completely just put others out of the stratosphere, right? Elon Musk, no pun intended, but like, he thinks very differently from people. He thinks, and looking at him, it makes me wonder, like, why did he get the results he got compared to other people? You know what I mean? So, same exact thing is having this big mission. I love that you're talking about. And on top of that, just understanding that the thing's not going to come tomorrow. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the bigger that your goal is, the longer it's going to take.
100%. And I think setting big goals is so, so important. I think when people play it safe and set small goals, they end up having a little impact. But when you set a big goal, you arguably work about the same amount of energy expenditure as you do with the small goal. So you may as well shoot big and stay in the game as long as you can. Look after your mindset, look after your relationships, your well being, and just keep going.
Yeah, James, I love that so much because I think it's so interesting this idea that everybody has 24 hours. So what separates this person from that person? And exactly like you're talking about, mindset is huge, but also setting the goals. That's something I'm trying to do better at is, it's a little tough for me because I identify as somebody who's like humble. You know what I mean? I like to be the person that's like, maybe I'm gonna hit this. I don't know for sure. And I have confidence, but I don't want to be the person that's in everybody's faces being like, I am gonna be the best podcaster. But to an extent, I feel like those are the people that do really well because they make it like that's their thing. I wanted to ask you kind of shifting topics a little bit because you mentioned the idea of focusing on what we can versus what we can't control. How much have you noticed that plays into success is understanding that there's some things that are outside of our control versus there are some things that we have control over and therefore we can change.
Yeah, I think that the bottom line is we've got to control our controllables. And if we don't control our controllables, then we're at the mercy of all these external forces. So I work with some professional athletes. One comes to mind in particular. He was the most capped All Black. So the All Blacks are world champion national rugby team here in New Zealand, and they're called the All Blacks. And so he was the most capped, played the most games ever, 153, I think, internationally. So he was really clear on what he could control, and he still set big goals, but he did them in a humble way. Humility is really a big deal in New Zealand. And where I grew up in Northern Ireland, really big deal. They don't love the screaming from the rooftop guys. I'm going to beat you. They don't warm to that. So this guy in particular, he set the goal of being the most dominant player of all time. He did it quietly. He shared it with 10 friends in a group. And he says, guys, I'm going to do this. And then COVID came up and that slowed him down. Injuries came up. That might have slowed him down too. Selection. But in the end, he stayed the course. And the way I think of it is if you do the work in the dark, you get to shine in the light. And to me, that's really what it comes down to. And that's actually a person you need to have on your show. I would love to introduce you to him. His name's Anthony Trucks. He's a former NFL linebacker with the Pittsburgh Steelers, American Ninja Warrior, third place runner up. Works with Brendan Burchard in Growth Day. He's one of his key speakers. I'd love to introduce you because he talks a lot about doing the dark work. And that's the stuff where you're right now in your bedroom. Nobody knows. You're just doing it. You're getting the podcast in. You're doing the reps. You're reading the books. That's brilliant. And your listeners need to do the same. It's like, stop taking photos of your watch at 5 a.m. when you're at the gym. Who cares? Just go to the gym, do your workout, don't take a photo, and then go and do your big thing, run the marathon, lift the weights, go to the Olympics. And then people will be going, whoa, overnight success. But I don't think there's anything appealing about showing the 4 a.m., here's what I do, here's how I do it. I've done it before. I've been that guy who thought it was important to tell everybody everything that I did. Nothing to be gained. Do the work in the dark so you can shine in the light.
Yeah, I heard a really good thing that an overnight success is somebody who's just done the same thing for years without anybody watching, which is an interesting point you bring up. You mentioned, along with Anthony's story, this idea of working in the dark, and something that resonated with me is I'm very much into MMA. Like I train MMA, and I'll train for my fights a couple of months in advance. And It's interesting because I had one of my friends after one of my competitions, he told me he wanted to get into it because he thought it was so cool. Like I went out there, I did my thing, and he was like, "Dude, this is so cool. Like I want to try it out." And the way he was talking, I realized, great guy, great friend. I realized that he didn't understand what I had to do to get there. Like, yeah, I was the person that was up there, fighting in the cage and everybody else was watching me. But it was 2.5 months of just, diet, training so much, over 7 times a week. It was insane. And that's something that occurred to me that a lot of people don't understand. It's like when you do things in public, it's the culmination. It's like the peak of the iceberg of the thing that you've done. Like everybody thinks that, oh, he just went out there and he fought and like, yeah, maybe he trained, but people don't really understand. It's impossible. And I don't really blame them. You mentioned the 3 habits that you notice the most talking to these people. So you mentioned being clear, supercharging the belief system, and no shortcuts. I wanted to ask because you've spoken to a lot of people in different categories. You mentioned your friend that turns to the prime minister. You mentioned Anthony Trucks. You've talked to, podcasters, athletes, all these different types of people. Do you notice all of these similarities with them, like in different industries?
Absolutely. It's like it transcends industries, cultures, ages, backgrounds, race, gender. Like it doesn't matter who I'm speaking to. Whether it's a young athlete who's just won the 2024 gold medal Olympic medal, like they're really clear on what they want. They absolutely believed in themselves. They took no shortcuts. They worked all their lives for this. Whether it's the person who became the prime minister, whether it's the person who wrote the book and became, the New York Times best-selling author, like it was the same thing. Radical clarity, a real high level of belief, and doing the mahi, doing the work, no shortcuts. So yeah, I have yet to see someone who can miss some of those key habits and win at the highest level. I think you can have one-hit wonders, and we've all came across them before. That's not high performance. Like when I think of high performance, it's when you consistently exceed the norms over the long term whilst maintaining healthy relationships and well-being. And when you can do that, to me, that's high performance. Not winning at all costs, but winning with healthy relationships and healthy mindset and well-being.
James, have you ever read the book 10x is easier than 2x?
Yes, I have. Brilliant book.
I'm currently rereading it right now, and you just kind of reminded me of it talking about it. You also talked about New York Times bestsellers, amazing books. Talk to me about your book that's coming out.
Oh, thanks, dude. Yes, so my book's going to come out initially Australia, New Zealand. It's called Habits of High Performers. It's being promoted right now by my agent in New York to several large publishers there. So it will be available in the States and beyond in 2026. But if anybody does want to get a copy, they can just get in touch with my team. We'll ship it international. But essentially, it's the key habits, both mindset and tactical habits, that the greatest business titans and the greatest athletes use, and it's to apply to your life and your work. So it's been an absolute mission. I thought writing a book would be easy, but I'll tell you, there was a lot of doing the work in the dark stuff, dude. I had to do a hell of a lot of work to get that thing just off the ground. So super excited to get it out there. There will be an audio version come out at some point, but we want to go first of all with the hard copy and do that justice. I think that we're seeing paper, as you can see behind me and behind you, there's lots of books. There's a big increase in the number of books that are being bought. Surprisingly, people think that ebooks and audiobooks are crushing it. They're not. So I'm super excited to get that paperback into lots of people's hands.
Yes, James, that's so inspiring, dude. What an amazing premise of a book. And for anybody listening to this, to kind of endorse this book a little bit more, one of the things that I've noticed having a podcast, and I'm sure you can relate to this on like 5 times the magnitude, but people have their own experiences. And like as one individual person, you might be able to tell me about an experience you've had on discipline or consistency, and you've learned lessons in the past. But the thing is, when you speak to hundreds and hundreds of people, you get little tiny bits of information from them. And then you start relating, oh, wait, this guy right here, he has something similar in the way he thinks about consistency than Anthony over here. You know what I mean? So once you start making these connections, it's crazy the impact that it can have because it completely changes the way you think. And I want to say that although I haven't read James's book, I can't imagine it won't be incredible because the lessons that you learn from podcasting, from talking to people is just absolutely shattering.
Oh, thanks, my man. And one thing actually for now that I'd like to give your audience as a thank you is I'd like to give them free access to my high performance planner. So anyone that's listening that wants to get a copy of that, it's the same thing that all of my professional athletes use, whether they're Olympians, whether they're into rugby or football, whether they're running a country or a small business or a big one. This is the same template they use to set up their week, set up their month, and achieve their goals. So they simply go to jjlaughlin.com/planner. I'll send you that as well through if you want to put that in the show notes so that people can go and click on it. But people can use it. Just please don't share it with everyone. It's only for the people that listened here. You guys can download it and enjoy it. But I just think what you're doing, Elon, is incredibly important work. You're taking lessons, you're distilling them, you're giving people access to different ideas, different ways of thinking. And that's what we all need. We all need to be challenged to see our blind spots.
James, what are 3 things that people can do right away to start acting like a high performer? Other than the 3 lists you gave, of getting clear, supercharging your belief system, and not taking shortcuts, what are some actionable things right now when people take their AirPods out and stop listening to this that they can take away?
Yeah, brilliant. So the one set of questions that I always ask anyone who has big dreams, and if they can't answer this, I refuse to work with them. I won't coach them. So number 1, what do you really want? What is it that you really want? And if they go, I'll go, okay, come back next year, you're not ready. So like if somebody goes, they don't know. So take the time. What is it that you really want in life and work? Secondly, how badly do you want it? Like, is it kind of that'd be nice, or will you do anything to get it? And lastly, how much are you willing to suffer to get there? And that's the bit most people don't like. They don't like the word suffer. They don't want to have to do that. They want the download, the Temu version. Like anything great takes a level of sacrifice or suffering. And suffering could be not going out 5 nights a week with your friends. Suffering could be not watching Netflix for 6 months while you build your product. Or suffering could be eating really well for 3 months leading up to the World MMA Championships. Everyone's suffering is different. But that's the first thing I would say. Answer those set of questions, really important. Second thing, master your sleep. Chatting with a friend who's the coach for George Russell, Formula One driver with Team Mercedes. And the number 1 thing they measure, sleep. When he's well slept, he performs better, he's happier. So if you want to be a high performer, don't be this person, I get 4 hours sleep and I'm a legend. Don't do that. That's not going to help at all. So really get to bed early, get up early, stick to a routine. And third, this is going to be really unpopular. Stay away from substances. Try and get your motivation from within, intrinsic motivation. I gave up alcohol 5.5 years ago, and I've got way more clarity, way more energy, and a lot more dollars in my bank account. So I'd say if you can, just stay clean, stay focused, know what you want, get after it, get up early, go to bed early. It's common sense, Elon, but it's not common practice. And high performers do those common sense things really, really well.
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that. I really like that. It's common sense, but it's not common practice. That totally makes sense. I feel like a lot of people my age, especially, is like exactly like you described. Like, yeah, I got 4 hours of sleep. I got 5 hours of sleep. And I'm like, dude, I got 8 hours of sleep, and I'm having a great time. So
Yeah.
I love that so much. When you talk about those clarifying questions for your first point, and you mentioned like, what do you really want? I wanted to ask you, is this from like monetary like perspective? Is this from like I don't know, holistic? Is this like individual? Like how do you measure it?
Yeah, great point. So I think in high performance, it should be holistic. So when I was young, Elon, all I wanted to do, win the world championships. And then all I wanted to do was win it again. All I wanted to do was win it again. So you get to 7 world titles later and you're like, okay, what's next? And where's my health? And where are my relationships? And like, where's all the money I was supposed to have? Like, I've spent it all. So I think we got to have a nice rounded approach right from the beginning. And so I would ask everyone to get clear on their priorities and have them in order. And those priorities will change. Like right now, my number 1 priority is family. If you had to ask me that when I was 20, it was drumming. I just wanted to win the world championship as a drummer. That was it. So mine's family, fitness, finance, learning, and business. And it's in that order. And then I'll set goals for each of those. And so I would urge you to go, as a podcaster, what's your goal? MMA, what's your goal? Wealth, what's your goal? So have 4 or 5 big chunky goals that are in different parts of your life and start working towards those. I wouldn't pick just one because you end up burning out other parts of your life. And you don't want to do that.
Sure, 100%. And do you think it's possible? Because I know a lot of people that are high performers, they have a hard time dealing with the word balance. I think, and I would actually attest to this, it's kind of hard sometimes to have balance in your life when you're really trying to do something meaningful, you know? So I wanted to ask, you're talking about what is your goal for me in podcasting? What's my goal in MMA? What's my goal with my family, with my finances? Is it possible to hit all of my goals without sacrificing one for the other?
Great question. If somebody wants something epic, I do not believe balance is possible. I'm not a believer in balance. What I'm a believer in is counterbalance. It's going, I know what I want to achieve. I'm radically clear that these are my goals. I want to win the world championships. I want to make $1 billion, whatever it is. It's about knowing that, doubling down on the thing, and then having the self awareness to go, oh, for the last 6 weeks, I've been doing 100-hour weeks. I'm exhausted. I actually need to shift my focus to my health. Or, you know what? I've been going to the gym 7 hours a day for the last 12 weeks. I need to shift my focus to my relationships. So I think it's about the ability to counterbalance, and high performers are masterful at being self-aware and knowing when to counterbalance. The opposite, you'll find people who have a quick win, they might do quite well in a sport or whatever, and then they burn out. They give up. They implode. We don't want that, Elon. We want that long-term, long game play.
Yeah, a mentor of mine, he told me something very similar. He said life is kind of like ebbs and flows, and while you might be, prioritizing this one thing right now, it's gonna put this other thing down. So you might be prioritizing your business, but your family life is going down, and then eventually it's gonna get to the point where it's got to flip, and your family is gonna be the priority, and your business is down. You know what I mean? So it's like, kind of it's interesting how that works, but I think it makes complete sense because I don't know anybody who has perfectly balanced like everything in their life unless they don't have outsized returns. You know what I mean? And I say that from experience. Like I understand people want different things. So I have a lot of empathy for, somebody might want the balance, somebody might want to just do their thing and scrape by, and that's okay. But I think the power of this conversation is understanding that if you really want something powerful, you need the clarity, no shortcuts, do it the right way. I think that's important because a lot of people nowadays they want to make $1 million in 10 days and that's it, they're done, get rich quick. But no, I think it's very unworthwhile. Like it's hard to keep that level. I see a lot of people that might be, into crypto right now, or just an example, not to hate on anybody on crypto, right? But people that are trying to get rich doing something, it's like it might work for a little bit, but for your life for the next 50 years, how else are you going to support yourself? You can't just have one quick win and then get it out of the way, you know?
I'm with you. Like, if someone was to gift you the World MMA Championship gold medal, you'd be like, what's the point in that? Like, I didn't earn that. I didn't achieve that. It's the same with money. Like, when I was younger, I probably wanted to try and make money quicker and faster. But right now, I'm delighted to make money slowly, incrementally, let it compound, let it grow, be smart with it. Because then you know how to manage it. Then you know how to invest it. Then you know how to spend it wisely. I would never, ever want to win the lotto. If you asked me when I was 18, would I want to win the lotto? I was like, hell yeah. I would never, ever want to win it. Why? Because if you give me $200 million, I don't know how to manage that properly. I don't know how to use that. So I would like to just build that incrementally, gradually. So when I've got $200 million, cool, I know how to build it and I know how to retain it. So it's the same with anything. Just go slow, take your time, and enjoy the magic along the way.
It's interesting you bring that up because I remember I was in a situation where I was trying to run like Facebook ads to something, and I remember thinking like, oh, like I don't have enough money to do this thing, all of this stuff, and then it occurred to me. So like I was just honestly putting money down out of the window. Like I was not making anything. My advertising's not good. I'm gonna say that, but I realized I was like, listen, if I had $10,000 right now as opposed to just spending like 50, I would waste it all. Like I don't know what I'm doing. So it's not about the money, it's about the skills you learn. And very similar to what you're talking about. And I see this in a lot of entrepreneurs as well. It's always been so interesting to me how I think they call them serial entrepreneurs, people who start multiple businesses and they constantly do good. It's like a trend. It's like, how are they so good at this thing? It's because they built it up, they know what they're doing, they know the small things. Like if you were to give me a business right now, right? And I turn to an entrepreneur, James, the business is going out of business in less than a week. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I think over time, if you do it slowly, do it the right way, exactly what you're talking about, that is the silver bullet, if you will. James, dude, you're amazing. You got me thinking about so many different things. Where can people find you? Anything else you want to mention?
Hey, I just want them to make sure if they're listening to your podcast that they like it, they subscribe it, they share this episode with a friend. That if they don't follow you on YouTube and everywhere else, they need to go and do that. So first, that's first things first, Elon. Second, if they want to come and connect with me, depending on where they hang out, I'm on Instagram, James Laughlin Official. I'm on LinkedIn. You can just type in James Laughlin, spelled Laugh, Laughlin. TikTok on there. So just wherever they want to connect in, I'd love to connect with them. And of course, they can go and get that planner. We'll put the link in the show notes.
100%. Also, for my listeners, if you do want to support the show, a link in the show notes is going to be to my community. This is a way you guys can get some, priority 1 week before I upload my episodes, and you can interact with me, have a conversation. And for those of you guys listening, I will see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much.